Another, so let's pray internet doesn't drop now.
So where do I go?
YouTube.
You have to go into your YouTube.
Oh, I have to log in as well?
No, you are speaking live. You don't.
On camera.
I'm sending it to the team.
Which page is it going to so that I can then go straight to
This page.
What is the page called?
So my cousin is asking me about this. So when I didn't know that she's
Also watching.
I see everything. Pharmacy or ITCC.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
He's there.
Log in as well.
Even outside.
No, but the details is up on your hand. We're not live yet, right?
Ah. But I said we are live at 10.
Start talking.
Yeah, start talking.
Oh, hi guys, but now I feel like I'm so alone. They can see me?
Yeah. Continue even with your teams. Even here, you are right.
I'm on Teams, I'm checking.
Okay. Hi guys. So we were not expecting that. We were expecting more questions. We were not expecting cyber attack. So please give us a moment to take it all in. Anyway, let's get back to business. So Young Women in Business Network was formed in 2009 as a way to say, as a young black woman trying to unlock business opportunities, I could not do it alone. I knew that by myself I would be able to unlock as many opportunities as I want, but I understood that as for black people, especially for black women, we could not do it alone, or I could not do it alone. I had to bring other women with me. And I'm not, when I say women, I'm not excluding men, or I'm not excluding other races. I'm just saying that this was an opportunity for us to uplift the women that have been marginalized for so long. So looking at that and doing research at the time, that's when we were then exposed, that's when I found out actually through research that stokvels make about 40 billion rand. And I was like, wow, but stokvel is something that we all understand, something that our parents understand, our forefathers understand. How can we use the very same stokvel model to invest in white-owned entities that we're looking to transform? So that's how we started. We used to host an annual summit for network purposes and also to present those business opportunities at those annual summits. So in 2011, 2012, that's when I really started just saying, let us use the stokvel model. Let's save money every month, you know. With that money, then we buy shares in white-owned entities. But also buying shares in white-owned entities that we know nothing about, we don't understand how they started, we don't understand the culture, we don't understand what they're trying to achieve, besides just looking into returns, it didn't make sense to me. So the only thing that made sense to me was to create wealth and create wealth from scratch. So not riding on existing entities that are just looking for investment, but really starting investment from scratch and starting investment in terms of wealth creation from scratch. So when you are part of Ywbn, you are part of a team that believes in starting things from scratch. That's why our journey is so difficult. So in 2014, so Namlock we did successfully, and then you would find other people that would go on social media and say, Tabling ate my money, I invested in this thing, and it was part of the CFI, which is a lie. I want to clear that now, that the random part, when she goes on Twitter to say, Tabling, I invested in the CFI and you ate my money, that is a lie. The money was for the Namlock deal, which we have since offered to pay her back because she put the company in disrepute. That's number one. Number two, we then introduced to the concept of cooperative banking. I myself, as a young black woman, I did not even know that in South Africa we have different types of banking. We only know the commercial banks as they were. So when I was introduced to this concept, Osman Bola, who introduced me to this cooperative banking, said to me, Tabeleng, you already run a network. You already have experience in working with people's monies to invest in companies. There is this thing called cooperative banks, and I believe that you are the right person to champion this banking because we don't have a bank, a black-owned bank in South Africa. So when I had that, it made sense to me that truly stokvels make so much money. How about we use that model to own a bank? That's when the own the bank thing started, and that was in 2014. So to register a cooperative financial institution, you have to do three things. First of all, you need to be a network or an association. The second one is members of a certain area. So geographically, if you live in a certain area, you can start a cooperative financial institution. The third one is that you need to be working for a certain company. When you work for that certain company, therefore you can decide to open what is called a cooperative financial institution. When we started, the cooperative financial institution required a minimum of 200 people, 100,000 rand share capital, and what they call a common bond. A common bond is what is it that brings us together? Why do we want to form this as a community? So our common bond was that we are an association. So this association is registered under the Cooperatives Act. It's not regulated by the Prudential Authority. It's not regulated by the South African Reserve Bank. It's not regulated by the FSCA. So this is a common bond, which is a requirement by law, right? So we then have this network where people had to pay membership fee. That's why you pay a membership fee to a network so that you belong to that network, right? The network, its vision is to then expose you to business opportunities or investment opportunities. So before there is a cooperative financial institution or before there is what is called a CFI, there is a network. So a network, you belong there first. When you are part of the network, then we in the network say to you, there is this investment opportunity to belong to a cooperative financial institution. So that's how it started. So I want to put it on record that the network is not regulated by the South African Reserve Bank, it's not regulated by the FSCA, but it is required by law that you have what is called a network, right, which is a cooperative fund. I said the requirements were 100,000 rand. When we did our research, we talk, as black people, amongst ourselves, that when you go to the commercial banks, they will not give you a loan for your business, but they will give you a personal loan. They will give you a loan for your car. But when we want or when we seek business funding, somehow all of a sudden you are high risk. Black people are high risk. Black businesses are high risk. So as entrepreneurs ourselves, we then said, but we need to, does the market really exist? Is there a market for black businesses? Why is it that black businesses are not supported? And who is going to take a chance on us as black businesses? Because remember, we are a team of entrepreneurs. So as entrepreneurs, we get tenders, we get contracts, we get purchase orders. But when we go to commercial banks, we will be told that Ntabeleng, you are a high risk. Palisa, you are a high risk. Your business is high risk. When you go to a development finance institution, when you have a contract for 2 months, the development finance institutions will take 6 months to assess your application. By the time they're done assessing your application, your contract is done. You have messed up your relationship with your supplier or your client, right? So when we did research, we then said, okay, the minimum requirement to register a cooperative financial institution is 100,000 rand. But we, as Ywbn Cooperative Financial Institution, we are positioning ourselves as the institution to go to for SMME funding, because that's when we believe, based on the research and based on the market analysis, we then said we are going to position ourselves as the institution to go to for any for SMME funding, not personal loans, just for SMME funding. And that's what we did, right? And I want to put it to you that the minimum was 100,000 rand, but because of the market that we're going after, we then put our minimum at 2 million rand. 2 million rand, we said 200 people, each buying shares for 10,000 rand, so that made up the 2 million rand. But before they could pay 10,000 rand for their share capital, they had to pay the 550 rand first to belong to the network. So you cannot participate in the CFI before you are a member of the network, right? So why we did that way? Because of the market. The market informed us that 100,000 rand means absolutely nothing. So you need to put it more. So that's why we put it at 2 million rand. We then registered, at the time it was regulated by what is called by CBDA, Cooperative Banks Development Agency. CBDA now is, the CFIs are now regulated by the Prudential Authority, by the South African Reserve Bank. But when we started, it was regulated by the Cooperative Banks Development Agency, right? So we then funded SMMEs. The YWBN CFI has had profits from year one. We have 5 audits, clean audits. We have not squandered people's monies. We have kept people's monies. We have had a clean record for that 5-year period, right? So in that 5-year period, we then realized that our shareholders, as CFI shareholders, most of them are professionals. They are not business people. But our products are for business people. Therefore, the number of calls and the demand that we're getting from the market itself, it was not our members. So the restriction in terms of the law, Cooperative Banks Act, did not allow us to service somebody who is not a member of the network, who is not a shareholder of YWBN CFI. Therefore, we have all this money, but we cannot service this demand outside of our own members because our own members, most of them are professionals. But remember, we went into this thing with a long-term vision. We knew from day one that one day we are going to end up as a commercial bank. But we have to start somewhere because we are starting in the financial sector, right? So we then said to our members, we are going to lock you in for a period of 5 years. So when you join with 550 rand annual membership, 10,000 rand share capital, you save for a period of 5 years. In that 5 years, you are not allowed to withdraw. If you are going to withdraw, we are going to have a waiting period of 2 to 3 years. We are not going to pay dividends. We are going to reinvest in the business. But if your savings are 25,000, from 25,000 rand and more, you will start earning interest on your savings. But in terms of dividends, you are not going to get anything. We are going to reinvest in the business because we have a long-term vision that says eventually one day we will get to a commercial bank license. But before we get to a commercial bank license, there's still a mutual bank, then a commercial bank license, right? So that's what we did. So for the YWBN CFI shareholders, all those people for the 5-year period, we have been locked in for a period of 5 years. We have not paid dividends in that 5-year period. We have been reinvesting in the CFI itself because we are not here for a quick buck. We are not here for quick returns. We have a long-term vision to say one day we are going to be a commercial bank, right? Fine. Then the YWBN CFI applied for a mutual bank license. A mutual bank license, it is regulated by the South African Reserve Bank, by the FSCA, under a Mutual Banks Act, which is a totally different act to the Cooperative Banks Act. So now we are graduating. We are growing from this layer, which is layer 1, to a layer 2, which is a mutual bank. When we apply for a mutual bank license, you submit your business plan, you submit your financials, you submit your policies, you submit, if you say you're going to have a digital bank, you submit what is this digital bank, the technology that you're going to use, you submit all of those. You even submit the proposed name of the bank, you submit the proposed nominated board of the mutual bank. The South African Reserve Bank looks at all of those things when they assess your application, which is what we call a Section 10 of the Mutual Banks Act, right? Which is what we did in 2018. We submitted a Section 10 as a YWBN CFI to the Prudential Authority requesting authorization to establish a mutual bank. That took us 3-4 years, right? Eventually, the Prudential Authority said, we have looked at your application. we have on paper, everything that you have written on paper, we now grant you authorization to establish a mutual bank. We don't call it a license. It's not a license. It's called, we have been granted authorization to establish a mutual bank. So they give you a letter. It's not this letter, but they give you a letter. On the letter, they say we have assessed your application, and these are the conditions that you need to meet to establish this bank. So I'm going to do a demonstration. We have the network, which is the motherboard. Before you become a Ywbn CFI, you need to belong to a network. A network gives birth to a Ywbn CFI, which Ywbn CFI says we're now applying to the Reserve Bank for a mutual bank license based on our history. We have been operating for so long, we have issued loans for so long, we have savings of this much. We even think the proposed mutual bank is going to look like this, right? The Reserve Bank then says, okay, fine, we have looked at your application on paper. Here is we grant you authorization to establish a mutual bank, right? Good. The mutual bank does not exist. There is no license yet. All we have as Ywbn founders and Ywbn CFI is this letter from the Reserve Bank saying we grant you authorization to establish a mutual bank. Ladies and gentlemen, that letter, it's a rare thing you will ever get in this country. It is worth more than gold, silver, and anything else that you can imagine. That is how expensive this letter is that we have as Ywbn CFI, right? Good. When we submitted this application for Ywbn Mutual Bank, the market analysis said the market that you're going after, it is estimated to be worth 475 billion rand. So this market that we say is underserved, it's unbanked, it's underserved. When we talk about unbanked, we talk about 11 million people in South Africa that do not have bank accounts at all. They don't trust the banking system, right? Then we have the unserved people. The unserved people is people like you and me that are already in the sector. We already have the bank accounts. We're already banking in financial institutions. But we're not happy because these institutions are telling us that when you're requesting for a business loan, you are high risk. But we're already in the sector, right? So when we have Ywbn CFI, when we have this license, not a license, when we have this letter, which is being granted authorization to establish a mutual bank, then we say this market is estimated at 475 billion rand. So if this market is estimated at 475 billion rand, how much of this market share do we want to take? We then say if we are going to take 1% or 1.2% of the 475 billion to now fund these black businesses that when you go to other institutions you will be declined, how much do we need? Then me, as an entrepreneur, I go to Manzini, who is a technical person, and then Manzini will run his numbers and say, we need 5 billion rand. So the 5 billion rand that you are asking about, it's not an evaluation. It is informed by the market. It is informed by the business plan. The business plan that we did research to say this market that we're going after, how much is it worth? It's worth 475 billion rand. If we want to make an impact and we want to serve these black businesses, how much do we need as a start? At least then it's 1.2% or 1.1%. That's how we got to the 5 billion rand. It's not an evaluation of the business because remember, the bank does not exist. There is nothing there. It's just a shell. It's just you have a letter to say, go and start this thing that does not exist, right? Fine. Then the answer is, for us to service this market and to at least make an impact, we need 5 billion rand. That's what the numbers gave us. Okay. We are black people, young people. Where are we going to get 5 billion rand from? We have worked so hard for the last 10 years to at least get to a point where the South African Reserve Bank allows us or grants us authorization to establish a mutual bank. But this mutual bank does not exist yet. But what we have this letter. This letter that is so expensive, by the way, right? We can, okay, but where are we going to get the 5 billion rand from? We own 100% of this letter, 100%. But where are we going to get 5 billion rand from? Because in order for us to service the market, to find SMEs, to create jobs, we at least need a minimum of 5 billion rand. So what do we do as entrepreneurs that have this expensive letter from the South African Reserve Bank? We then say, okay, we own 100% of this letter. This bank is supposed to stay in the hands of majority black women. The black women who only have this expensive letter, right? So we are going to then offer and dilute our 100% and offer the 45% to people that have money. You have the money. The institutions have the money. But you, as an individual, does not have 5 billion rand. You might have your 1,100, you might have your 5,000, you might have your 10,000, your 100,000, your 2 million rand. But as an individual, you don't have 5 billion rand. This institution that does not exist needs 5 billion rand. All the Ywbn and CFI shoulders have is this expensive letter. So what do? They say, okay, we are going to take 45%, we are going to offer it to people that have the money so that we meet each other halfway. I need a cup. No, just give me the cup. Thank you. So, this is the mutual bank that we need to establish. It does not exist. It is a shell. It does not exist at all. But we have a letter that is very expensive that says go and establish this bank. Okay, we don't have the money. We go to you as the public to say to the public and institutions, we are offering you 45% for this 5 billion rand, right? What we bring to the table, because you have been asking, what do we bring to the table? We bring this expensive letter. We then pour into this new bank that we want. We ask you to pour your money, which is the 5 billion. We pour here into this cup. Together with this expensive letter, with your money, we're now able to establish this mutual bank. So the question then becomes, but how are you establishing this bank? What do you need to establish this bank? This expensive letter tells us that you as Ywbn and CFI shareholders, you need to go and have your own meeting, which we held our special AGM on the 17th of April this year. The second one says you need to appoint auditors. Not just auditors. You need to appoint auditors that are pre-approved by the South African Reserve Bank that are able to do what we call the DI forms. So the DI forms can only be done by certain audit firms, not just any audit firm. So we don't just choose any audit firm. We need to choose the audit firms that are capable and have the necessary skills and expertise to submit what we call the DI forms, right? That's number 2. Number 3, the letter says, you said you are going to fund SMEs. Show us the capability of this money. Where are you going to get this money? Where is this money? Now we got stuck, but we don't have the money. All we have is this expensive letter. But now we are going to offer the public for this money so that we can go back and show to the South African Reserve Bank we have the financial capability of funding these SMEs, right? We also said to the Reserve Bank, this bank is going to be digital, we are going to have systems in place, we're going to use this technology, we're going to report using technology, but then the Reserve Bank says, okay, you put it on paper, go and put a proof of concept together. Then get the same auditors to audit the whole process. So if you say you are going to offer a transactional account, go and establish, make it happen. Come to me and show me that their transactional account works. Those are the establishment costs that we're talking about. So that we put what is called a Section 13 together. A Section 13 is what we submit to the South African Reserve Bank, but we would have incurred some costs. So when you talk about establishment costs, we're talking about those costs, right? Fine. So the question is, but Ntableng, we're giving you our 5 billion rand. Is this a donation? Because now people are claiming it's a donation. No, it's not a donation. We are saying to you, and we are being transparent to you when you bring your 5 billion, that we, as Ywbn and CFI shareholders, because we are bringing this expensive paper, and you are bringing hard cash, and cash is key. When we establish this bank, we are going to lock ourselves in for a period of 6 years. When we are locking ourselves in for that period of 6 years, we will be working, sweating, making sure that the 5 billion grows. So from day one, we do not own 2.2 billion of the 5 billion. We are saying to you, we will keep your 5 billion as capital. We will work and grow the bank. But in this period of 6 years, we are asking you, do not expect any dividends because we need to reinvest in the business, in the bank, so that the bank grows. Is your money safe? Yes, your money will be safe. Is your money going to grow? Yes, your money is going to grow because we will be working and making sure that the bank grows so that your money grows, right? So that's how it answers. In 6 years' time, once we have worked and the bank has grown, then we say, we have, your 5 billion is here, it has grown. We can now have our 55%, which is sweat equity, which will also include the employees and the founders. But the only difference is, in this 6-year period, who will be the decision makers? The majority black women will be the decision makers because it must belong in the hands of black people. Majority of black women. So no, you are not donating. Your money is not being devalued from day one. But what we are saying to you is, we will work so that your money grows up to a point where we now have our shares, which is the 44% of the founders, the 1% of the employees, and the 10% of Ywbn and CFI shareholders. These people took a risk, guys. They worked very hard to get us this expensive paper. So that's what we have. So we have answered the question of how did we get to 5 billion? It is not an evaluation. It is informed by the market analysis. It is informed by the quantum of what we need to make an impact. Therefore, it is definitely not an evaluation. And we understand, right? Because people that know textbook, they will say, how do you evaluate this non-existent company? This bank does not exist. How did you get to an evaluation? Because that's textbook talking. The real life and the reality and the facts say you have this expensive paper. You then share this expensive paper with other people, you work, and we all take a risk. You take a risk to say, I believe in this vision, because what we're selling you a vision. We are selling you projections. We are selling you what we think we are going to do, right? That's what we are selling you. We are not selling you, we cannot come and promise you we're going to give you 8% or 10%, or we will be lying to you. Any person who says to you, we must disclose how much percentage of dividends we're going to pay, they are lying and they're misleading, because any company, if without profits, you do not declare dividends, right? So that's how we answer the 5 billion and the 45%, that we are both coming together. We are both taking a risk to establish this bank from scratch. But your money will not be devalued from day one. Your money will stay 5 billion. Your money will grow. That in 6 years' time, your money has grown, but will also have added here. So that, it is estimated net asset value in 6 years' time at about 11 billion rand. So that's how we got to where we are, right? There is no debt. Permanent interest bearing in permanent interest bearing shares is not debt. Like somebody said, it's a coupon. You are donating. It is different. That is a lie, and you are being misled. the Act says this permanent interest bearing shares, you can transfer, but you can't redeem. But when you transfer or sell, then we say you can sell. It's like willing buyer, willing seller, right? You make your money. We will make our money the day we decide to sell. That's how you make your money. We will not have debt from day one. We will have permanent interest bearing shares, which is 5 billion capital. Then we use the 5 billion to leverage on the 5 billion so that we can get more money, so that we can support black businesses and fund black businesses. But what will be the benefit of you putting in your 1,000 rand or your 10,000 rand? Guys, unemployment is high. It's a fact. Black businesses are not supported. It's a fact. It's up to you and me, us, all of us, to come together and use our resources, our expensive letter, your money, to fund people that are in business. When we fund people that are in business, they are going to create jobs for you, for your sister, for your brother, for somebody that you know. We are bringing a solution to black people. You are not donating this money for free. We are saying, let us come together. Let us carry the risk together, because nobody is doing this for us. We need to do this thing ourselves. Nobody is going to be our messiah to come and help us. Basically, that's what we are saying, right? So your money is safe. The only way we're going to lose your money, because it's a risk, if we support all these businesses and they don't repay the loans, they don't deposit, then we devalue, right? And which obviously we think that's not going to happen. But that's what we say. So far I've answered those questions. Then the question, 100 Rand why? I've explained, we have a network. The network, you need to belong to the network first, in order for you to participate in the investment. What happens with this 100 Rand? Guys, there are administration costs. Everywhere there are administration costs. For you to register on the portal, that is cost money. For us to verify your ID on the portal, that costs money. This process needs to be audited after, so that we submit that to the South African Reserve Bank. That is money. The lawyers need to be paid. That is money. So the 100 Rand will be used for that, because what we did when we were putting together the Ywbn on the bench scheme, and we wanted, when you're on the portal and you want to pay immediately, you know how expensive it is for you to pay, to click on that pay? I mean, you would pay 2.2% on bank charges. We said no. Our people don't have the money for that. So let us rather keep that money and also only focus on onboarding the customer. And then once you get your reference number, you can then go at your own time and pay. We were saving you money because it did not make sense why you have to pay so much for bank charges just to click a button for you to pay, which is costing us, I must admit, because people are taking longer to pay. But we took that decision because we understand that our people don't have money. So the only money that they have, we would rather that they buy shares with. So that is the 100 Rand, why you are paying the 100 Rand, right? I'm going to read the other question. So the other question is, what happens if the South African Reserve Bank does not grant us Section 14? It is a risk that we are all asking, that we all take. If we sit and think, what if the Reserve Bank does not grant us the license? We will never get the bank. We will never get anyway. So this costs, the establishment cost. Even the auditors don't know. We did ask. We asked for a quotation. How much is this thing going to cost us? The answer was, but we don't even know the amount of work that's going to go into it. So they can only at that time. It's not like we did not ask. We have asked. So we can't give you an exact amount of how much we are going to spend on establishment costs. But it's not the whole 5 billion. It will not even get to 100 billion. From what I know, it will not get it. So let's say 4.9 billion is put aside for when the bank is operational. Once now the Reserve Bank is happy, if they will be happy, only then we will use the rest of the money. But to establish, it does not cost a lot of money. But unfortunately, as for this expensive data, we do not have the money to only pay for, we don't have the money to pay for the establishment costs, right? So what happens if all fails and the Reserve Bank says, no, we are declining your Section 13 application? We then say, we give you a report because it will be audited to say this is how much we have spent. We therefore return people's monies and then life carries on. Obviously, we don't think like that. We don't think the Reserve Bank will say no. So, but to answer you and to make you feel comfortable, that is the process that will take place. And then the question then says, the name. Okay, so people are asking, can't we then give this name a generic name? The bank has been named after myself. And it was an honor by the Ywbn shareholders to say, we understand that a mutual bank is owned by its depositors. It's not an Ywbn bank. But we honor the work that she has put in order for us today to say we have a Section 11, which is the being granted to granted authorization to establish a mutual bank. We're honoring her. We do not want to honor her when she's dead. We want to honor her now. And people are saying, but why Ywbn Court's name? We are getting into this is politics of economics, right? Identification and representation, it is very important. And by the way, I am not the only person. JP Morgan, as you know, it is named after the founder. Barclays is named after the founder. Greenrod Bank in South Africa is named after the founder. Sasfin is named after the founder. Louis Vuitton, Adidas, Motete Foundation, Maponya Mall, they're named after their founders. For me, it's an honor, but we do recognize that the bank is owned by its depositors. It's not an Ywbn bank. It's an honor. I'm being honored for the work that I did, right? But more than anything else, it is representation. Your kids, my kids, your sisters, your brothers, yourselves, when you know, because it's a mind shift, it's a mindset thing that needs to shift. When you know there's a bank that you can identify and recognize and know that this name is African, this name gets sold, you are able to identify yourself that you belong. You're able to see that actually as black people, we can own banks, you know? So that way is a way for us to start naming businesses after ourselves, after our own African names and recognize, so that we start working on the mind that says black people can achieve this, young people can achieve this, black women can achieve this. So that is already working on the mind so that you are able to identify, you are able to belong, you are able to see this, if they can achieve this, that means I can achieve it too. That is the whole thing and how but I must say, the name that was approved by the Reserve Bank is Ywbn Mutual Bank, subject to us as the shareholders if we want to change it. But even if we change it, the Reserve Bank still has the right to accept the name or decline the name. So it's not cast in stone that is going to be Ywbn Mutual Bank. We just wanted to inform the public that our intention is to name this bank Ywbn Mutual Bank, so that you don't buy into Ywbn Mutual Bank and then later on you hear, they've now changed it to Ywbn Mutual Bank. We want to be transparent with you. We want you to know our intentions. That's why we put it in the prospectus, right? Number 4. Why do I refer to people as future bank owners? Again, it goes back to affirmation. You need to live it. You need to internalize it. You need to see yourself as a bank owner. Guys, we worked on this thing for so many years. We still think to ourselves that we actually did it. We ourselves, people that live this thing every day, we get the moment of, did we? Really? A bank? Are you sure? We did it. So when we start addressing you as a future bank owner, we want you to start internalizing it. Again, it's working on your mindset. It's for you to believe that actually we can really own a bank. Wow, me, a bank owner, that means in future I can become a bank owner. So it's really just a way for us to work the mindset, because even ourselves, we still pinch ourselves. We still say, did we really this? Like, guys, the way we got our Section 11 approval, dead or alive, there are no people that have done what we have done. Dead or alive. That's how expensive this letter is, because of what we have achieved. So because we are still pinching ourselves, we hope it works. We hope you look at yourself and say, I am a bank owner, or I'm going to be a bank owner, or I'm going to be a future bank owner. And you're going to tell your kids that you're going to be future bank owners, because what we are creating is generational wealth. It's not just for now. That's number 4. Number 5. Number 5 says, why does Ywbn disregard the Consumer Protection Act? For example, clients have the right to cancel within 5 days of registration. What we're saying is that we have our constitution, we have the acts, we have our articles of association. When you click on the terms and conditions, we believe that you have read the prospectus. We believe that you have read the terms and conditions, because that's what, when you click, you are clicking that you have understood, you have accepted the terms and conditions, right? We are not starting, what we are starting is big. It is massive. It is impactful. It is in the banking sector, which has its own regulations. We cannot have people changing their minds. We might and will need legal advice, right, on this act to check if people can withdraw within 5 days of registration, as you put it. But when you click on that thing and you click on terms and conditions, we believe that you are in it for the long haul. We believe that you understand that you're going to be there for a very long time. That's why we are very strict. It doesn't matter what you're going through in life. When you come back and say, I want my man, we're going to say no to you, because we're going to believe that you understand the impact of what we are trying to do. We are not going to be changing and selling whenever we feel like it, or whenever life happens to us, because then we will not be stable. The regulations will not even allow us to just be changing things as and when we please, because we understand the importance of what we are building. That's number 5. Number 6 is talking about our consultants. How do we trust their finance and risk management expertise, because we're in the banking sector? The beauty of Ywbn Mutual Bank, or the proposed Ywbn Mutual Bank, or even the Ywbn CFI, is that we understand the struggle of Black entrepreneurs. Just because our consultants went on CIPC and you found that they did not submit their annual returns, it does not take away their expertise, their knowledge. It doesn't take away what they know. What it shows you, shows us, is that this Black entrepreneur was going through the most. They did not have the money to pay for the annual returns. But that does not make them any inferior. It does not make their jobs or their knowledge any less than all these big established companies that are able to pay for CIPC. So for us, it's neither here nor there. It is the expertise that we're looking for, because when you and me together, we have a bank that can support them, they will be compliant, because we will request that of them. We will request that for us to fund you, you need to be compliant. But for now, there was no need for them to be compliant, because what they were doing is that they went through a rough period. They could not pay their annual return. There was no legal requirement for them to do that, right? Is Ywbn in a position of the letter from the Prudential Authority awarding Ywbn a provisional license to establish a mutual bank? So we are not allowed to call it a provisional license. It's not in the Act. We do not. The Reserve Bank does not allow us to call it a provisional license. We have a letter. This letter, yes, we even had a media briefing on the 23rd of March to announce that we have been awarded on the 9th of March. So we do have the letter. Number 9 says, can we share the letter? Unfortunately, we cannot share the letter. The letter is confidential, so we can't share it with the public, but the letter is there. If you want to write to the Reserve Bank and ask them if they did award us the authority to establish a mutual bank, you are more than happy to do that. But we have been awarded the letter, and that's what gives us the right now as Ywbn and CFI to establish the bank. Otherwise, we do not have the authority to establish the mutual bank. So unfortunately, we can't do that, right? So this one I have answered when it talks about the advice that my investment will be refunded less capital costs. Please advise what these capital costs are. So I've already explained that we also don't know. The auditors are waiting for the technology guys. The technology guys also are putting, as they go, the proof of concept. But all of that will be audited so that you know how much risk we are taking. But it's not a lot of money, but obviously money is money. But as compared to the 5 billion, it's really not a lot of money, right? If this whole thing is a scam, if this whole thing is a scam in that there is no authorization by Prudential Authority awarding a provisional license to establish any form of a financial institution, whether cooperative bank, Ywbn does not and has never had any intention to open such a financial institution, can prospective investors and those that have invested take legal recourse? Yes. If we have not been awarded or granted authorization to establish a mutual bank, please sue us. If Ywbn and CFI does not exist, it's a scam, please sue us. But for your comfort, Ywbn and CFI, when you go to National Treasury, their website, search for registered CFIs, you will see all legally registered CFIs there. You will find Young Women in Business Network Cooperative Financial Institution. The only thing that you cannot get now is this letter that we have been approved to establish the mutual bank. So I don't know what the process is internally with the South African Reserve Bank, but we have the letter, which we cannot unfortunately share with the public. So, but if you find that we were not granted this authorization to establish a mutual bank, please sue us by all means, right? Number 10 says, number 11, if by year 6 investors wish to cash out or disinvest, what amount will those investors be eligible for the full amount of their initial investment? So in year 6, we're saying this bank that we are establishing that does not exist right now. The only thing that we can share is the projections, and which is already in the prospectus because we can't share all of it. So it's projections. But in year 6, the excess is non-redeemable, but you can transfer, right? Which you can sell. The whole point, ladies and gentlemen, we are asking for a long-term investment. We are asking of you for generational wealth. We are asking of you, if you are tired or you want out, to transfer it or sell it to somebody else, maybe in your family, so that we start creating generational wealth. That's what we are asking of you. So we cannot now say to you, this is how much you will get in 6 years' time, because we will be lying to you. We do not lie, and we do not mislead you. That's why it is not there in the prospectus, because we will be lying to you and we will be misleading you, and we are not the ones to lie and mislead. Will shareholders ever receive monetary dividends, returns from their investment, or are we providing a helping hand to establish the bank? The Mutual Banks Act says, you must please read the Mutual Banks Act. It says if there are no profits, we cannot declare dividends. That's standard procedure. But the mutual bank, the board, depending on how the mutual bank is performing year in, year out, year 1, remember we don't have history. This bank does not exist. So we operate year 1. We now have history, year 2, year 3. Once the board sees that the bank is performing well, there are profits, they will take the decision to declare dividends, or they will take the decision to reinvest the dividends. So it really depends on how the bank is performing, but we must always remember that we are long-term investments. We are creating generational wealth. We are taking a risk together to build or establish this bank. That's what we're saying. So we're not saying you are not going to get dividends at all. All we're saying is we cannot lie to you and say this is how much you are going to get, because that will be a lie. The only thing that we can do or say is to say to you, the money that we're going to get, which is the 5 billion, we are going to fund small medium enterprises. We are going to fund black small medium enterprises. That we can tell you, because that's where the money will be used eventually, right? Are shareholders only targeted for business owners? Because as an employee, I will not need a loan to build house or buy business asset. The 5 billion will be used to fund even the people that are not shareholders of the mutual bank. People that do not believe in us right now, those are the people that will come, knock on our doors, and request us to fund their businesses. That's what the money will be used for. Because we are saying, in order for us to create jobs for ourselves, for our sisters, our brothers, we need to fund those entrepreneurs that are already in business. So you as an employee, you don't need to have a business. We are not funding only us as shareholders or only us as employees. We are funding the people that have businesses, people that are already running businesses, so that those businesses can be sustainable, can grow. When businesses grow, when businesses are sustainable, they create jobs. Your sister, your brother, or yourself might be employed by the same business. That's what we are saying. As an employee and not a business owner, how will I benefit from the bank? As an employee, at least you would have created your own job. We are creating our own jobs right now. So if you don't invest, if you don't buy shares in the Ywbn on the bank share scheme, and we don't get the banking license eventually, the Section 14, it means we are not creating jobs for ourselves. It means we are not creating jobs for other people. So at least now we are taking the risk, all of us, to at least we will be employed, will grow and employ more people, and then we will fund other people to create jobs. Right? Ms. Ntaveliko is posting on her social media with political leaders of the ANC. What assurance can we get that there will not be any negative political influence in the bank? The ANC, guys, I'm posting with government people. When you are running a business, you have stakeholders. You cannot work in isolation. Unfortunately, you will not be successful. Whether it's ANC leaders, EFF leaders, ATM leaders, because at our briefing we invited all political parties. It was not just the ANC party. We invited all political parties, but we can pause with them. They are stakeholders. White monopoly capital in this country, they take 5% of government's budget. We black people, we fight for the 5%. We fight for the 5%. In order for us to operate in this environment, we need different stakeholders. And unfortunately, for you that is worried that I'm posing with ANC leaders, tomorrow I'm going to be posing with EFF leaders, or ATM leaders. I've already posted with ATM leaders. I'm going to be posing with PAC leaders. It means that you need to have trust in that Ywbn CFI shareholders, or Untitled, because I'm the one posting, has worked so hard for so many years for black people to take all of that away just because I'm posting with political heads. But more than anything else, it is important for the bank to engage with different stakeholders. And government is our stakeholder. Whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, it is a stakeholder that we must engage. It is a stakeholder that will engage us. At the end of the day, we are the only bank, in our own opinion, that is going to deliver what the politicians have been talking about, because government and politicians are working on legislation, right? We are the implementers, but we can't implement if legislation is not in our favor. So we need to influence or inform the legislation makers to make life easy for us implementers, because how do I fund your business if legislation does not allow me? I will be enraged and I will go to jail. So please allow that we engage with different political parties and trust that we have your best interest at heart. But before we have your own interest at heart, trust that ourselves, we want to have a black successful bank. We are tired of black faces being black failures. Anything that is failing, anything that is corrupt is black faces. We are the generation that says black excellence. When you see blackface, you must know that everything is good. Number 16, what assurance or guarantee can you give the public that it is not a scheme to steal money from the ordinary public? The Ywbn CFI is legally registered. The cooperative is not registered, it's not regulated by the Reserve Bank or the Prudential Authority, but the process will be audited so that the public knows how much the money was spent and all of that, right? How much will the founders be contributing towards the bank? The founders will be contributing this expensive letter. It is very expensive. It has no value, this letter. So that's what we are contributing to establishing this. But more than anything else, we're also saying we are going to be working in the 6-year period to grow the 5 billion. So that's how, so it's not in monetary value, because the minute we say it's in monetary value and we put a value to it, nobody can afford it. That's how expensive it is, this letter that we have from the Reserve Bank. What policies do you have in place in the case that a founder, senior manager has been accused of fraud or in court for serious crimes? Okay. This question is for when we are operational. Right now, we are establishing the bank. Establishing the bank requires us to have CFI shareholders meeting, appoint auditors, raise capital, put systems in place, change the name of the bank if you want to. Those are the 5 things. But this one is a policy that will be made available when the bank is operational, so that you know what we stand for as a bank. So the policies will be shared, but obviously they will be shared so that you can have access to them. But for now, we only look at what the Reserve Bank has asked of us. What is the bank's full establishment vision? Our vision is to be the leading majority women-led bank, not just in South Africa, but in Africa. We want to be the bank that funds small businesses. We want to be the bank that understands black businesses. That mama that is selling fruits and vegetables, that oil eyes mechanic, we want to be that bank because we understand that those people are in business. Those people are not informal. They have been termed as informal. But how do we bring our people in the economy? How do we support them so that they stop being hand to mouth? How do we ensure that we gain back our starter shops in our townships? That is the bank. Our bank, your bank, the bank that we are all building will be that bank that focuses on black businesses. Please explain in providing clarity on how the founding members contributed to having the 40% stake allocation in terms of brand value and a breakdown of each member contribution. So I've already explained that we are bringing this expensive paper to the table. You are bringing the money to the table so that together we can build this bank. So if we go into how much each person has contributed, it will be very expensive. We will never be able to build a bank because it will be very expensive. But we are now going in terms of the market share, how much do we need to make an impact on small businesses so that we can create jobs. And we are not being ambitious, we're just saying we just want 1% of the market share, which gave the 5 billion rand. How did you get to a valuation of 10 rand per share? This is an internal decision. It's not an IPO. It's not driven by the markets. This is us saying we are going to offer shares at 10 rand. So it was a decision. It could have been 1 rand. It could have been 2 cents. It could have been any amount. We just decided that 10 rand seems more reasonable, and with 100 shares to get to the 1,000 rand. It's the same thing as 5 billion, right, guys? 5 billion. It could have been 2 billion. It could have been 1 billion. It could have been 100 million rand. But we decided to go with 5 billion rand because at least it will enable us to get to the 1% market share. So it could have been any amount, really. So we are not there. What is the return for the investment? The return for the investment, we said we cannot tell you now. because what we are telling you is projections, is what we are projecting on. This is how the bank is going to look like. If we promise you returns now, we will be lying to you. We do not lie. We do not want to mislead you. Anybody who is saying to you, you must ask for returns now, and we must say for sure now, is lying to you and is misleading you. We cannot say that because we will be lying to you and we will be misleading you, and we cannot do that. How is the value of the shares determined? How will you determine the value of shares in 6 years from now? How will you determine the real return? See, point number 3, I'm going to give it to Manzi because he will tell you that at what point do we start valuing this business once we are operational? Because remember, the bank does not exist right now. So once we are operational, maybe he can give more information of the different types of evaluation methods, because there are different types of evaluation methods based on what we want to do. So I'm going to give him that to answer. How is investing in the bank different from a donation? What will happen to the money if SAP refuses the license? What is the establishment cost? I've already answered. You are not donating to us. It's not a donation. Whoever that's been saying it's a donation is lying. It's not a donation. But what we're saying is that you are the 5 billion rand now. We are going to work it, multiply it so that it grows. The worst case scenario that can happen to your money is if we issue loans recklessly, which I'm sure the Reserve Bank will not allow us to do that. Even ourselves will not allow us to do that. So if we devalue the 5 billion from day 1 or from year 2, year 3, that's when you will lose your money. But from day 1, your 5 billion is going to remain 5 billion. So you're not donating. You're not giving us your money. We are just saying, let us work together in that. Why can we not have access to the financials? You know, you are asking for financials of the Ywbn CFI. Remember, Ywbn CFI has applied for a mutual bank license to the South African Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank looked at the whole application and gave us a license. When you are asking for financials, it's like somebody, we are now driving a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, I can't even say it, the way it's so expensive. You are asking for financials of Jetta 1. It will not serve any purpose to you because that entity is not going to, it's not the one that you are investing into. You are investing in this entity, a new entity. What you should be asking for is the conditions that this letter has, which we have shared with you, that the conditions are that we need to have the auditors, we have been transparent in that. So when you're asking for financials, you're asking for something that will be no benefit to you whatsoever. Because the purpose of the financials is been done. Even if we do give you the financials, you're asking for Jetta 1 keys when people are driving Bentleys because we have this expensive leg. People that are saying ask for financials, misleading. There is no benefit to you whatsoever. But if you want the financials, they are for Ywbn CFI shareholders. You are not Ywbn CFI shareholder. Ywbn, you are not investing in Ywbn CFI. You cannot do due diligence in Ywbn CFI. So Ywbn CFI is not the one. What we should be talking about is how do we establish a new entity from scratch. And remember, it's not even established yet. We need to request, we are submitting to the South African Reserve Bank to say, South African Reserve Bank, this is how we see this bank is going to look like. So everything here is projections, but they want to see the money. The money, they want to see your technology works, they want to see all of those things, which we now say, okay, let us then use this money that we have, a little of it, to put these costs, what we call the establishment costs. You are not in. So, even the Ywbn CFI shareholders, once the Reserve Bank says we are happy with Section 14, you hear Ywbn go and now start this bank. Ywbn CFI will cease to exist. So there is no, these shareholders here are going to register a new entity that entity will now buy shares or represent their shareholding in the mutual bank itself. So I hope you see that you are asking to do due diligence of an entity that will be not even liquidated, that will be winded up when the time comes. How do you get? So, what is the qualifying criteria and application process for SMMEs? Guys, we cannot share our products right now. You cannot. The banks right now are operating. If you're asking us about the products that we are going to be offering to the public, you're asking us to be naked to the world. They have added advantage. They can take whatever products that we say we are going to offer to the public. Tomorrow they launch it because they are already operational. So these things are still a secret. These are still internal secrets that we need to keep ourselves so that we don't expose ourselves like that. But obviously we disclose those things to the South African Reserve Bank to say these are the products that we are going to offer to the public. Unfortunately, we cannot share these things with the public because we are not a bank yet. We have not been licensed to operate yet. So we can't. But that's why when you read the prospectus, it will say, what are the benefits? What are you going to get, or how are we going to use the money? That we can share. This is how we're going to use the money. But in terms of products, you are putting your own bank in danger. You already see that now we've been cyber attacked. So can you imagine if we now share our products? Then it serves us no purpose for us to share the products with the public. Those are the last questions that I have on my side. Manzini, you will answer the one about the evaluation. I hope I have captured all the questions. My plea, because I'm now closing on my side before I give it to Manzini. My plea is, as Black people, we do not have the luxury of not taking a risk on ourselves. If you are going to wait for a messiah or an investor outside of yourself to establish this bank, you are stabbing yourself because you are not creating a job opportunity for yourself. You are not creating a job opportunity for your sister, for your brother, for your loved ones, because you do not want to take a risk. You do not want to take a risk on people that have sacrificed 10 years in building this thing so that they can get that authorization to establish a mutual bank. People that have given up everything to make sure that at least we have a representation today. You are not doing this for us. You are doing this for yourself. You are doing this for your loved ones. You are doing it for your sister, for your brother. But we also understand that not everybody is going to join now. We understand people take longer to understand these things. And we must also understand that whatever that we are doing now, it's new. We are the first CFI to graduate from a CFI to a mutual bank. What we are doing now has never ever been done before. We are entrepreneurs. So if you come to us, if you come at us with textbook and you go on social media and you spread lies and you are malicious in the way that you are doing it, it serves you no purpose. But you are derailing the process of Black people owning a bank. Because we do not say, in our prospectus, we do not say you are donating to us. We are saying your money is going to grow. We're saying your money is going to be safe. We are not saying this is a scheme. So this parting words for me from my side. So Manzini is going to take over. Yeah.
Okay. I will try to be very, very quick just to capture some of the things that Tabeleng has already alluded to. The first thing that I want to talk to is that just to make it a little bit more clear is that when she's talking about the expensive license, she's almost like saying it's like water in the desert. We did not pay for this license at the Reserve Bank, saying paid a lot of money for this license. No. It's like if you're having some water in the desert and somebody says, I want this water, but you have bought it for ₦5. So it is a valuable authorization that we have that is very rare. So I just want to make that one clear, that when she says it's an expensive letter that we have, she's not referring to what we paid for. And the second thing I want to go to quickly is on the valuation, because we don't have time. She has expressed that we have looked at this 475 billion market that we want to go to. It is a huge market, and we determined as the founders and management that we need 5 billion. If we do get the 5 billion, right, and we do get the license, that is the section 13 that she talked about, the net asset value valuation of the business, that is, those who are technical will understand that the net asset value will be 5 billion, right? But the enterprise value definitely will not be 5 billion, because there is a lot of projects that we will be engaging on. The enterprise value will be based on the future free cash flows that will be generating from the business. There are different methodologies of doing evaluation, and I want to emphasize that the 5 billion is what we determine ourselves and say, what is it that is going to make an impact into the market? And it is 5 billion. Once we get the license, if we do get the license, then the net asset value, which is your assets, the money that we have, less the liabilities, will be 5 billion if we have that 5 billion. If we ask for 4 billion, it will be 4 billion. So it's not the valuation of the business. Right, so I just wanted to emphasize on that. Then the second thing that I want to emphasize on is that she talked about is that we are not in any way, when we're saying the founders are going to be 55% shareholders, meaning that it is going to be 55% of 5 billion. The value that the founders are going to get from this business is going to be the present value of the future dividends that they are going to get, because they are not going to receive money or sell and get money from the 5 billion. That is impossible according to the Mutual Banks Act. I have to emphasize that we are actually guided by the Mutual Banks Act, and as a result, there is no way in which you can get the money out of the business. That is share capital for the bank. It is going to remain there. Whether it's one of you who is deciding to sell the shares, it is always going to remain as that 5 billion as share capital. I will leave it at that point in the interest of time. And if there is more questions, we're going to be able to answer them in our frequently asked questions in the website. Thanks a lot for listening. Bye-bye.